We're on the brink of what some have called the agentic era, which I know from the cocktail hour yesterday, a lot of people are thinking about in this room. Both our panelists have thought really long and hard about how we humans can live and work with AI agents. Tracey Franklin made news late last year when she was promoted from running human resources at Moderna to a new and groundbreaking role, Chief People and Digital Technology Officer, which means that she's now managing the needs of a 5,000-person organization, as well as 3,000 customized GPTs, which are tailored versions of ChatGPT designed to facilitate specific tasks at Moderna. And Anish Raman is the Chief Economic Opportunity Officer at LinkedIn, and by his own account has had a squiggly line career, from being a CNN correspondent to writing speeches for President Barack Obama, to his current role at LinkedIn, where his focus is on shaping the global conversation around the historic changes reshaping work. I'm going to be opening this up to questions. I know from the conversations yesterday, you have plenty of questions on this topic, so put your hand up and a mic will come over to you. I'd love to start with you, Tracey.
Sure.
Really a nuts and bolts question. With these 3,000 custom GPTs, how do you determine what tasks are appropriate for a human and what tasks for a GPT? I wonder if you could give us an example.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question, so thank you, and hi, excited to be here. For a couple of years now, we have been thinking about work. So not necessarily workforce planning with humans and not necessarily just technology planning. It's what's the actual flow of work that happens in an organization and what's required to accomplish that to have the biggest impact. And so we've mapped those flows of work out across the company, so whether that's within a function or cross-functionally. And then we say, how best should we get this done? Is it a normal system, robotics, AI, human, and then how do you integrate it all? And so the purpose of my role is really bringing together talent strategy and tech strategy to build that integrated way of doing work. And so it's case-by-case basis. I think one of the exciting things that we are working on is our individualized cancer therapies. And that's a whole new way of building our organization. And so we don't have time to get into it now, but it's a pretty cool example of how we've combined all of that.
And Anish, you published a New York Times op-ed, came out literally this morning, which is great timing, about the challenges facing workers.
Well, she was in the Wall Street Journal.
Right, she was,
Yeah.
it's true. The challenges facing people at the bottom rung of the career ladders. You said that to fix entry-level work, we'll have to reimagine it entirely, which is something that I know, Tracey, you're also thinking about. Could you elaborate a little bit on what you meant by that? How do we reimagine that? And specifically, what role do the people in this room, people in the HR departments, have in that reimagining?
The most important role. I mean, first, thank you for having us. Congratulations to Fortune. This is an amazing collection of people. I often think of this line from one of the great movement builders that there's only one conversation that this group of people can have in this room at this moment. Let's find it. And I'd encourage us all to really lean into that prospect because we are at the beginning of a moment of big history, of big change when it comes to the world of work. I'm convinced it's going to be the biggest disruption to work in human history. And so the point of the op-ed was really people are starting to get that, but I don't think people understand how fully in this moment of change we are. Where people were starting to get that urgency most was around entry-level work. I think it's the most intuitive for people that the tasks that we've traditionally assigned to entry-level work are the most disrupted, if not imminently disruptible, by AI tools. But the most important part of the piece, and I'd encourage you all to read it, but I leave you with this as a group, is that for a while now, as we've thought about this moment of big disruption, we have been going to technologists to ask them, what's coming? And technologists should be asked, what's coming with AI? But technologists are not trained or skilled at answering the question of what's happening to humans at work.
Right.
That is not what they know best. And we haven't done a good enough job going to all of you, going to neuroscientists, going to organizational psychologists, going to economic anthropologists, to say what has been true for humans at work, because it hasn't been a great story to date. And then what's possible for humans at work if we change the story of work from not being about technology at work, but humans at work. And so the piece really pushes us to not just say entry-level work is either gone or persisting in old math ways. It's how do we make entry-level work better, not just for entry-level workers, but for the companies they join. Each generation brings its own unique skills and expertise to a culture of innovation. Entry-level workers, young grads, they're natives on technology and these new tools. And they are, all the research of Revolution shows, people are most absolutist, in their 20s. They're going to push back. They're going to ask, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do it this other way? And that's exactly the kind of culture that people need. And that all then ends with all of you. I mean, the unit of change for all this is going to be work, and the people that are most in control of that are all of you. And so whatever we can all do to help all of you lead all of us, really as a species, into this new world of work, that's what I'm signed up for.
And you're already doing that yourself, both of you. I want to, if it's all right, get a little bit personal here. You've both talked about using AI agents in your own work lives as sometimes even as a personal coach or kind of a therapist to get you through your work days, or to multiply your capabilities. Yeah. And I'd love to ask you both to share a little bit about how you, on kind of the course of your days, how AI has helped you personally. I don't know if do you want to start?
I can. So I use it a lot, but the thing that's been most helpful for me as someone who is really interested in getting the most out of human potential is I do a lot with our executive team. Obviously, I'm the CHRO in addition to running technology for the company. And we have a lot of personality tests that we've used in the organization. And so I've created profiles in a GPT of our executive committee. And I have scenarios of when two people are maybe at conflict, or when I have to go in with an opinion or a recommendation, and how might the group react to my recommendation. Or if I'm having a really bad day and I need to understand myself and why I'm triggering, I actually have a completely interactive coach, therapist, and teammate for me that I use all the time. It's been like my favorite thing. So if anyone is interested in it, feel free to ping me. I'm happy to talk about it.
Can I just want to dig in a little bit further.
Yeah, sure.
Are you actually kind of like modeling conversations when there's like conflict happening?
Yes, 100%.
And you're kind of like, what are the, how?
You can build the profiles of people. We use Hogan. I've uploaded all their Hogans, and I've said, here's a situation. How are these two people going to react? Or this is what happened. Why did these two people react this way? And how best can I help coach the reconciliation? And I will tell you, I think I'm pretty good with people, but it gives me an advantage that I didn't have before, because I don't fully understand someone's, innate human personality response like the GPT allows me to do.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, there's so much that we lose in terms of the human to human because of cultural disconnects. It's most explicit in terms of language and literally being in different countries, but it exists across functional know-how. My wife just texted me this morning. She's an academic dermatologist at UCSF. She does research on skin disease that disproportionately affects women, people of color. She's going to talk to the chief technology officer to think about all this, but she doesn't know the ways of speaking and thinking of a chief technology officer, so she just said this tool that she's using really helped her get ready. I will say for all of you, I've lived experience on every bit of the story that I am telling. When you asked earlier who's worried that AI is going to replace them, early on, as someone who writes a lot and at various moments has written for a living, I was like, oh, it's going to replace me at this core skill set that people call on me for. Because a lot of, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, my value add was like, help us write this, help us think about this.
Right.
It's like, it's coming for that. So instead of the hunker down fear, I was like, well, let me engage with it. Let me see how good it is. So a lot of the early days was like, can it keep pace with me? Can I keep pace with it? Where does it plateau? Where do I push forward? So whatever your core skill set is that you feel like is most vulnerable to disruption, you use the tools and get a sense of it. But now as I look back, it has become integral to my writing. It helps me sharpen lines, sharpen thoughts, speed up execution of content. We talked about in the past month or so, step changed my work. I mean, I'm now doing weeks of work in hours. And as I try to understand it, it was a kind of existential experience as it happened. Mary Kate's in the room. She knows I was like, I don't know what's happening, but something's happening. I think a lot of it is I've invested in the tools for a bit now, so I give them a ton of context on who I am, how I think, what I'm curious about. They help educate me on the history of work, history of our species, like all these big concepts I'm trying to wrestle through. And I've gotten more project-based. I mean, all work is going to become project-based. We are going to look at a beyond collar, beyond function work sooner than you think. Sales and marketing won't exist as they are, but might not even exist as separate functions. And all of that is because there's a thing we need to do, and there are different roles for AI to do and humans to do, and AI helps humans do different things with other humans, and human review becomes part of the workflow. But I've invested in these tools, and so...
When you say you invested, you've invested time in training them.
And so one way to think about it is we all talk about the large language models, but what's coming with AI are the small language models. And that shorthand for that is agents. But the small language model just means the tools I use have a really good data set on me. And I've given him all thoughts, all questions, all of this stuff. So now the small language model that is me means these tools just started, at a quick pace, started getting even better at the projects I assigned it.
Right. I'd love to actually put this question out. How many people in this room are using AI agents in this way in your kind of daily work lives?
And I count projects within AI tools as a pseudo agent, so that might get people.
Right.
Yeah.
So some. I mean, I'd love to hear any questions you all have about this at any point, so please put your hand up if you have questions. Is there a hand up? Yep, there's one over there.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts from an ethical standpoint of Gen AI, because at the end of the day, as you both have referenced, we are humans. We are the ones that are giving the input to these agents. So whether it's from a legal standpoint or just human societal standpoint, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, let's all start with how broken work is and that we don't want to preserve the status quo, and I can get into all that, but let's not try and protect old. I think there's a lot of brokenness that we want to unwind, including bias that is embedded in our labor market currently in its failure to match talent and opportunity well. I think this is a key question, but a lot of companies then stall out when legal gets involved to really contemplate these key questions around tools. Ethan Mollick just did a post on this. You've got to push through that and develop a framework. Some of the data you've got to keep in-house. You're going to have to build your tools. Other data you want to get. Where I think about the ethical implications, first of all, it's about who has access to these tools more than the tools themselves, and are we thinking about the global south, entry-level workers, people from marginalized communities who are often left behind and least thought of in terms of accessing these tools that could help them right now. And then I think there are, questions about who has the data. And I think at an individual, organizational, societal level, we have to think about it. I've wrestled through, I'm giving it a lot of data. How do I feel about that? We all will have different thoughts on that. But that's part of what we have to wrestle through.
I think you said it well. Yeah.
And I think we have another question.
You go first on this.
Byron O'Geist from Opportunity at Work. My question is about, well, I guess we had a 2x2 in the earlier session. Maybe it's a 2x2, but from an organizational standpoint, and then from an individual standpoint on one dimension, but then on the dimension of how things are today and how you optimize them versus how people grow and develop. Right. So for example, you might have a set of preferences today, and you might be AI might be very good at understanding that and optimizing for that. But you might also have a growth trajectory that you want to be on as a person. And how do you manage the tools so that you're helping people become who they want to be? Yeah. And from an organizational standpoint, that you're not just evaluating people on, oh, you're an entry-level person. Well, sure you are, but what will you be in 2 years, 5 years, whatever? So how do you balance those things, growth versus individual optimization?
Yeah, I think for me, in addition to what I was saying around really looking at what work needs to get done, it's a constant, the cultural attribute that we really focus on is curiosity and someone's ability to learn. Can they learn and can they solve problems? And so I think that's the thing that we instill, we always have before this movement is part of our culture. And so for us, we don't look at roles as static at all. It's a constant evolution. And so we always say, like, your job's not your job description. And that is absolutely true moving forward, no matter what company you work in. And so I think that's one way I think about that.
And first of all, I would just want to thank Byron for the work he's done over years now to really try and fix the most fundamental flaw of the labor market, which is it's non-transparent and overly reliant on pedigree signals. I think, Byron, I think about it in two ways. One, right now I am trying to shore up a defense of the species by saying there are unique human capabilities that are universal to all humans: curiosity, compassion, creativity, courage, communication, that are going to be core to how companies innovate and how people build careers. The agentic era opens up a new level of that, which is individualized work. So my answer to you on the 2x2 is they merge with this idea. The world of work that's coming is about the idea that nobody beats you at being you. And that means no matter what your lived and learned experience is or isn't, you have a uniqueness to you as a human. That if we can help you figure out how to turn that into the curiosity that drives you, the expertise that drives you, so that you are innovating more at work as an employee or as work as an entrepreneur around your unique core self, that's when I think we not only get every individual to shed the baggage of the knowledge economy and this outsourced sense of identity to the job title they got it in, the degree they got it in, the big name employer they worked at or not, to an internal definition of self around skills and curiosities that they can affirmatively put on the table around their work. And my God, imagine what happens. It's not the robots that are coming, it's the humans. I mean, if we unleash nobody beats you at being you, for a woman in rural India, for a kid in the slums in Brazil, as much as for anyone in rural America or across all the communities we work with here, just think of the human ingenuity and innovation that's going to get unleashed on a broader set of challenges than I think our economy has tackled and businesses have tackled to date.
It's a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Tracey and Anis.
Thank you.
Thank you all.